Following World War I, Britain governed Palestine under the British Mandate. According to the Mandate documents preserved in the United Nations Digital Library, this system placed political power in the hands of the British rather than granting Palestinians local self-government. British policy also supported a national Jewish home, which contributed to increased Jewish immigration during the interwar period between World War I and World War II. As Palestinian protests and petitions failed to change or end this policy, tensions between the Palestinian Arabs and the British intensified. These unresolved conflicts ultimately led to the Palestinian Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. This documentary explains how the uprising operated as a revolution, how Britain reacted to a direct challenge to its authority, and how those reactions led to reforms under the British Mandate. During the 1920s and early 1930s, tensions slowly built under British rule. Palestinians repeatedly submitted petitions and organized protests demanding political right and self-determination, which the British largely ignored. According to historians such as Aljlaihawi, this exclusion from political decision-making intensified frustration within Palestinian society. At the same time, Jewish immigration to Palestine increased during the interwar period. British Mandate records and the Peel Commission show that Britain allowed and supported this migration as part of its policy. Many Jewish immigrants believed Britain's support was necessary for safety and a future homeland, especially as anti-Semitism increased in Europe. However, Palestinian Arabs increasingly saw British policies and immigration as a threat to their land and political future, which added to the rising tensions. By the mid-1930s, years of unresolved grievances and failed peaceful resistance created conditions for widespread unrest, setting the stage for the Palestinian Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. To understand why the Palestinian Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939 was a revolution rather than a series of spontaneous riots, it is important to look at how the uprising was organized. During the revolt, Palestinian leaders formed the Arab Higher Committee, a centralized political body that represented the Arab population and issued coordinated political demands. Documents from the Arab Higher Committee, preserved in the Library of Congress, show the uprising had leadership, planning, and clear political goals. Unlike riots, which are usually unorganized and short-lived, revolutions depend on coordination and direction. Historians such as Aljlaihawi describe the Arab Revolt as a mass movement with organized leadership and widespread participation. This evidence shows that the Palestinian uprising functioned as a revolution aimed at challenging British rule, not as a random outbreak of violence. The Palestinian Arab Revolt prompted a strong reaction from the governing authority under the British Mandate for Palestine. British officials viewed the uprising as a serious challenge to their control, not as ordinary unrest. Militarily, Britain responded by sending tens of thousands of troops to Palestine, declaring states of emergency, enforcing curfews, carrying out mass arrests, and using collective punishment against villages suspected of supporting rebel fighters. British government reports from the 1930s and the Peel Commission confirm the scale of this response, showing that normal policing had failed. Politically, Britain moved to dismantle Palestinian leadership. Authorities banned political organizations, arrested or exiled prominent leaders, and outlawed the Arab Higher Committee, removing it from political influence. As historians such as Aljlaihawi explain, Britain targeted leadership because organized resistance threatened colonial authority. This reaction demonstrates that Britain treated the uprising as a revolutionary movement that directly challenged its rule, rather than a temporary disturbance. The Palestinian Arab Revolt exposed serious failures in Britain's system of rule in Palestine, forcing officials to attempt reform rather than continue governing in the same way. By 1936, Britain could no longer maintain control through normal administration. A mass general strike, widespread resistance, and reliance on emergency laws and military force showed that the existing system was not working. Britain's first major reform was an official investigation into the crisis. In 1937, the British government created the Peel Commission to investigate why the revolt had broken out. The commission examined the unrest and reviewed Britain's policies in Palestine. It concluded that British rule was no longer working and that the existing system had failed, leading officials to consider major changes. Britain's second reform came after the revolt ended in 1939. British officials issued the White Paper of 1939, which restricted Jewish immigration, limited land purchases, and proposed a new political framework for Palestine. These changes represented an attempt to stabilize the situation by modifying British policy rather than abandoning control entirely. Together, these reforms show that the Palestinian Arab Revolt forced Britain to acknowledge weakness in its colonial system and attempt to fix them through investigation and policy change. The Palestinian Arab Revolt marked a major turning point under the British Mandate for Palestine. It organized revolutionary leadership and challenged Britain's authority, proving that the uprising was more than a series of riots. Britain responded to the revolt with military force, emergency laws, and the removal of Palestinian political leaders. This harsh response shows that Britain viewed the uprising as a serious threat to its authority. In response to these challenges, Britain attempted to reform through investigation and policy change, including the Peel Commission and the White Paper of 1939. While these reforms aimed to restore stability, they also exposed the weaknesses of Britain's system of rule. Together, the revolution, Britain's reaction, and the subsequent reforms demonstrate how challenges to the power can force governing authorities to respond and adapt, leaving lasting consequences for the future of Palestine.